It's a beautiful morning. I'm glad to be back here at Percy Quinn. I was here last week with a good group of people. Looks like we got another little good group this morning. My name's Justin Coon. This is my wife Allison. And I'm excited to come out here. Last week I talked with a group of campers out here about adjusting your focus on Jesus. And this week I'm going to take it a little step further, and I'm going to be talking something a little bit more personal that you may have been fighting in your own life. And I'm going to share with you one of my favorite Bible stories. If you have your Bibles, or if you have your phone, or you got something that you want to look and read along with me, if not, it's okay, I brought mine. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 39, and we're going to start at verse 20. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to just come out here with a little word of prayer before we get started. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this beautiful morning here in Percy Quinn. I thank you for the people that have come over here this morning to listen to your word. I ask and pray, God, that along with any speech, any preaching that I do, that your word flows through me. Your word is allowed to come out. It's allowed to touch somebody. It's allowed to help somebody. I ask today, God, that this is not just a typical speech. This is not just a typical sermon. What I say, you resonate through, God, and what I say is carried with me, God, and is carried with you, and is carried with these people. As we go through our mundane lives, as we start off tomorrow morning, Monday, starting the week off, once again, we want to be able to look back and reflect and hope we find something in this message that helps us, God. And I ask that you use me as your platform, or I'll not use you as my platform. I thank you once again, God, for this day, and just be with me, God, in this message. And I hope and pray that this leads somebody into something today, God, especially a better walk and a better relationship with you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. In the story I'm going to be talking about today, this is the story of Joseph. Is everybody here familiar with the story of Joseph? He was a boy who was betrayed by his own brothers. He was sold into slavery, into Egypt, and he eventually became very prosperous. He actually gained Pharaoh's honor, and he was actually responsible for saving Egypt through a bad famine that lasted for 7 years through being able to interpret the Pharaoh's dreams that he had ahead of time. But before you get to the end of the story where he's reunited with his brothers and he's reunited with his father, this guy, he really goes through a lot of things in his life. You heard me say that he got betrayed by his own family. He was sold into slavery, and even once he started doing well with that, he was lied on, and he was eventually thrown in prison. And so the message that I wanted to bring to you guys today, focusing on that part, would be my personal prison. So we're going to start off Genesis 39, verses 20, and it's only going to be 2 verses this Sunday. It's only 20 and 21, because honestly, verse 21 to me is so potent and it's so powerful that you really don't have to continue reading too much. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. The real thing that I want you to focus on is that very first powerful sentence in verse 21 that says, but the Lord was with him. And to be honest with you, we could spend all day just on that. And that's mainly what this sermon is evolved around, but we're going to do something a little personal here this morning, something that I've been thinking on. What is crazy to me is that last Sunday, we were discussing, trying to figure out who would be speaking again this Sunday. Because there was another group that was supposed to preach, and through some communication, they allowed me to do it. And we thought that we would not be here this Sunday, that somebody else would. So that was my intention throughout the week, that we would just come back another time. We'll let them pass. Yeah. So, I didn't think I was going to be here this Sunday. I thought somebody else would be preaching. But I got a text Thursday morning from Brother Steve Clark asking me that if I would come back out here again, because they had talked about it. They liked how I preached, thank God. So they said we would like you to come back out. So since Thursday morning, I had to come up with something. And what is amazing to me is Monday till Thursday morning, I had nothing on the mind. I wasn't thinking about it. Of course, I had my typical things, my typical talks with God, and wondering when the next time I'd be speaking, where it would be. And then all of a sudden Thursday, as soon as I found out I was speaking again, this just popped into my head. So I believe that God was telling me, I want you to talk about personal prisons, because you yourself, I myself, have to fight with personal prisons on a daily basis. Now, what are personal prisons. Prisons in this world, we see them as iron bars. We see them as people being incarcerated. You do something wrong, you go to prison, you get thrown into it. It is through a justice system. Well, we don't all go to prison, we don't all go to jail, but we live with something that can still incarcerate us. And jail and prison, personal prisons, are different for everybody. One person's prison might be their body. Another person's prison might be their mind. And some people, it's both. And I have experienced personal prisons of mine in life, although I've not always considered them to be personal prisons. I have always tried my best to have a positive outlook even when things were going really rough. As we see in this book, Joseph, he was a very, what's the word I'm looking for? He was a kid that you just knew was going to make it young. He was favored the most from his father amongst his other brothers. His brothers were very upset with that because they saw it. While he is young, he is becoming a scholar, learning things. His parents are spending more time with him and teaching him things while his brothers are out in the fields working. And whenever he came to his 17th birthday, his father, Jacob, actually gave him a cloak that had the colors of the rainbow on it. It was a beautiful cloak. And his brothers were actually very jealous of this. And they couldn't get over how their father had surpassed them and focused so much attention on him when they had done so much of the work for their father. Jealousy is a very, very, very dangerous thing to fall into. And we can wonder sometimes why jealousy tends to creep into our lives. It itself is a personal prison. The main thing I want you to pay attention to in this story is that through the jealousy, through the lies, through the slavery, through the time in prison, God was always with Jacob. And it is because God was with Jacob that he was able to persevere. I have said it many times and many times before that it is not what a person goes through that defines who they are. It is how you come out of it. It is how you respond to a situation. You personally can look across your life and you can tell back on times whenever you probably went through something so heinous, but you yet are here this morning. When I was in high school, my dad lost his dad, and it was a family business. And we had to eventually move across state. And it was a real rough time in my life. Everything that I was planning on doing, all the hopes and dreams that I had and things that I wanted to go through in life, all that had to come to an abrupt end, and a new reality took over in my life. And this is a part of my life where I wasn't even close to God. But I found God through those moments. And I found that when I was at my lowest point, God was right there with me, still. And that's what happened to Joseph. He gets thrown into prison. Before he gets thrown into prison, he had gained prosperity with the keeper of the house that he was with. And his wife didn't care much for Joseph because he did not want to lie in bed with her. So she came up with a lie to get rid of him. And so the man trusted his wife, and Joseph was cast into prison. So not only does he go to prison, but he also loses his job. Fire me, do not send me to prison. That's where I want to go. I don't want to go to prison. Losing a job, I can put in an application. I can get hired on somewhere else, especially anybody that knows me and my work ethic. But I ain't trying to go to prison. But what do you do when your prison follows you around everywhere? You will always have a battle in your life. You will always have something that you are constantly wrestling with. You will always be finding yourself in some prison. In this world, we tend to think that if I won the lottery tomorrow, all my problems are going to go away. I'll pay, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'd love to pay off our house. We just built our house 2 years ago. I got a long 28 years worth of mortgage payments coming out every month. It'd be really nice not to be doing that right now. It'd be really nice that we could take as many vacations as we wanted, go as many places. But I've seen people, they got way more than I could ever ask for in their pocket, in their bank account. But I look on the inside of people. Money cannot buy you happiness. It can buy you brief moments of joy, but it's not going to buy you pure happiness. I'll put it to you like this. When we built our house, me and her weren't even engaged at the time, but I knew that she was going to be my wife. So whenever we went to customize this house, I brought her along with me. I said, I know that me and you are going to be together one day. So I want you to come and I want you to pick out your kitchen and pick out all your colors. And surprisingly, there's still stuff that she wants to change after it was built, but I knew that was coming anyway. Now, if I could go back and things were laid out in front of me, either you can build a smaller house with this woman who's going to be your wife, or we can not be married and you can build whatever size house you want. 8-car garage, 3 stories tall, game room, man cave, everything you can imagine. Where I'm at now in my life and how I perceive things and what God has taught me along this way, which one do you think I'm going to pick? I'm going to go with her. I don't care if me and her's got a shed, because a house is just a house until you've got people in it that love you enough, that create it and make it a home. And I lost so many people in my life coming up that home eventually just became a house. And when I found her, I felt like I was getting that back in my life once again. Your personal prison is something you might not tell anybody about. Not everybody shares every detail of their life. Some of this stuff we hide. We keep it dwelt deep down inside of ourselves. But this is the most beautiful thing to me about this text, and that's why I had to preach on this today, is verse 21, but the Lord was with Joseph. You had to sell the car? I'm going in it with you. You lost the house? I'm losing it with you. He walked out on you? It's okay, I didn't. She said you wasn't good enough? It's okay, I say that you are. Your bank account's been drained and you don't think you're going to be able to catch up on the payments? It's okay, I'm right in there with you. You're going in prison? I'm right in there with you. I can't follow everybody around, even doing these preaching sermons that I've been started doing here. I've come to learn that when I do this, all I can do is use what God has given me to stand here and speak. And all I'm doing is giving you something for you to take and for you to relate with God. This is you and your connection with God. Would Joseph have turned out the same had God not been with him? I very seriously doubt it. Would I have turned out the same if God not have been with me? I very seriously doubt it. And a question that is often asked to me by friends, co-workers, peers, maybe older than I am, younger, is if I had bad times in my past, but I didn't have a real walk with God, I didn't have a connection with God, how was God still with me? And my personal belief in this is because I know me, I know my family, I know my God. My God knew me before I was even here. We beat ourselves up so much on our personal prisons. We look at ourselves in the mirrors and if we have a good enough connection with God, we say, God, am I enough? Is what I'm doing enough? You may look across and say, I failed you this past day, this past week, this past month. I have not went to church as much as I should. I have not prayed to you as much as I should. I have not been as generous as I should. Because life happens. Sometimes you have to take care of your own. And we feel bad about that sometimes, and we say, God, I didn't give my tithes this week like I've always been doing, but I just had to replace the tire on my car. I just had to go in my savings just so we could pay the electricity bill. We've had a rough month. We've had a rough time. God knew what you were going to do before you did it. He knew you were going to get mad. He knew you were going to get frustrated. He knew that you were going to have problems with yourself. He knew that you were going to walk away from him. He knew that you were going to come back to him. He knew that you were going to stray a little bit. He knew you were going to stop praying. He knew you were going to. He knew everything before it ever even got to you. Before you were ever even thought of by your parents, he knew what was going on with you. And it is so amazing to me The thing that I've come to love the most about God and my personal relationship with Him is that I have learned that God will pull you out of a hole that you put yourself in, and He will never even hold it against you. And I think to myself, what kind of a love is that? Now I know this might not sound like a typical preaching sermon you always get. I'm getting kind of personal here, but this is where I think the Spirit really grows the most. And I said it last week, I'm going to say it again because I believe in this. It's something that you got to take with you Monday morning when you're standing in line to get gas and you're frustrated, you're aggravated because you got to go to work. You spilt some coffee on your shirt, you're annoyed, you're aggravated, traffic was slow. You're going to be 10 minutes late, they done already annoyed you to death, but it's got to carry with you. It can't just be here this morning. It can't just be within these 25 to 30 minutes. What are you going to be thinking about tomorrow? I'm still going to mess up. I'm still going to have my issues. I'm still going to have my problems. I'm still going to be living in my personal prison. But it's okay because I know God's walking in there with me. I failed a lot in life. And it's a wonder that I'm even here this morning, that I preach anywhere, that I say anything about God. If you would have known me years ago, you'd have said, there's no way this dude is getting up here and talking about God. There's no way. Me and my wife, we first met in 2013 at First Baptist in Magnolia. Jeff Bates was playing there one evening, and we went there, and my aunt and her family came up, and she was with them. She was a friend of my cousin's at the time. And we met. I shook her hand, said, hi, how are you? And she said the same to me, and we parted ways and went on. And then we came back to each other in 2017. God gives you glimpses of what's coming in life later on, and you don't even realize it. I have already planned this. I'm just kind of letting y'all say hi to each other so y'all know what y'all look like or whatever, and later on when the time's right, I'm going to let y'all meet, whatever, but it's not right now, but it's coming. God predestines everything. Nothing that you are going through is without reason. And nothing that has happened in your life is wasted. Our time is so valuable to us because one thing you cannot get any more of in this life is more time. That's why we often get frustrated when we feel like people are wasting our time or we're doing something that isn't meaningful in our time because I can't get this back. The greatest time I've ever got is preaching about God. It was a personal prison of mine because I felt for so long that I wasn't capable of being loved or loving another person. I can't tell you how many times I got turned down and rejected, not just in relationships, in jobs. I felt like I was a nobody going nowhere. And I felt like I had everything set up for me to be prosperous in life, but it just didn't happen. You ever typed in something on GPS and still got lost? I got a Galaxy S10 Plus. I ain't supposed to get lost with with that type of equipment. I'm not supposed to get lost with GPS. But eventually that thing will just spin around and it'll say rerouted. I'm gonna give you one more. I try not to spend too much time personally, but today I was thinking about this and I was talking with God. I said, God, I've got this message, and I've had to put it together in just a couple of days. And I know what I want to talk about, but I said I don't want to make it too personal about me. And this is where God has led me to just share some personal stuff with you today on this one. Because there's so much packed into personal prisons. There's so much packed into that. If you really sit down and you really dissected your personal prison that you have lived with your entire life, the multiples of them, you will see column after column after column after column of stuff that just went wrong, didn't work right. And so I asked God, and God said, do what you know to do. God said, I trust you to do this. And I trust God to lead me in this. Last year, I was up for a promotion. I work for Coca-Cola right here in Macomb. And I was up for promotion. It was something I wasn't even thinking of. And everybody came to me 3 or 4 people in the office that said they had heard my name come up, and they said they would like for me to apply for it. And I said, whatever. I said, I like my job, I like what I do. I said, but maybe this is God leading me in a way. And you know, whenever God comes to you, you get that feeling like this is the right move to make. And I asked God, I said, God, I need you to give me a signal here if this is what you want me to do. Don't let me be doing something just because it's me. And ever since I got that talk with God, y'all know what I'm talking about, that talk with God. Every little decision you make, every little thing that pops up, you start asking Him first, and you don't even think about it. It just is voluntary. Is this right, God? And He said, yeah, go for it. So I did. I applied for it, and I was pretty sure I had the job. And my family is, my place I work, that is my second family, and I really mean that. I work with some of the greatest people in the world. We've had some moments, just like anybody that works anywhere, but I couldn't imagine working for a better company, a better place. They came to me and they asked me to come in and see them the morning, and I figured this is when they're fixing to tell me that I got it. And they set me down, and long story short, they said I didn't get it. And I just kind of sit there, and I'm not going to lie to you, I was kind of dumbfounded and kind of struck like this isn't even something that I originally wanted. I felt like I was led here to apply for this, and now I'm being told I didn't get it. And people can say what they want, but that is a crippling moment. That is a devastating moment, because initially you are being rejected. You are being said, we didn't pick you. They can try to soften it. They can try to tell you as nice as they can, just work on it a little bit more. But initially, it was rejection. Before they pulled me in that room, though, I remember looking up to God as we were walking to the office, and I remember looking at Him just saying, I trust you whichever way this goes. And I was all happy and joyful, like this is something that's going to happen. I can't wait to tell everybody, but now I'm walking out the room, and now I got to live up to what I just told God, that I trust Him. Even though it's not what I wanted, I still got to live up to when I said I trust you. In this personal imprisonment that I'm in now, being denied, being rejected, going home knowing that I'm doing the same thing come next Monday morning, that I was passed up on something. And I did. As I was driving, my route's all the way in Bogalusa, Louisiana, so every morning from 5 o'clock a.m. to about 6:30, I drive down there every morning and start my route. And usually I don't get back home till 6, 7 o'clock at night. And I was on my way down there, and I remember I actually had tears starting to come out my eyes because I was thinking about it. And when they start telling you that you need to mature a little bit more, that they're just looking for something a little bit more in you, and they've seen you grow, but you're just not there, you can't help but feel a little emotional about that. And I talked to God about it. I said, God, why would I do this? Why would I put myself through this again? And it was a lesson that I could not see for myself. It was something that I would not have picked for myself, a lesson to go through, until recently. 2 weeks ago, I messaged her. I was on cloud 9. A lot of our stores we do are Dollar Generals. Anybody here ever been to a Dollar General? There's like one on every block. I've got about 5 of them on my route, and something that was unbeknownst to us, because this stuff just isn't announced, it's never in the paper or anything. One of the CEOs for Dollar General, don't know who he is, don't know the name or anything, never got that, but him and the regional manager and district manager actually came down that way, and they actually did a tour of their stores. And when they walked through one of mine, they awarded the manager of that store with an award for being one of the cleanest, Dollar Generals in the country. This means you can actually walk down the aisles in the place. And they took a picture with her, but they wanted to take a picture with her in front of the Coca-Cola section, because they said it was the prettiest display that they had seen from Coca-Cola. So they took a picture in front of it. My salesman found out about it. He got the picture from his phone. He sent it to the big bosses, and they pulled me in the office the next morning. I didn't know this was going on. I'm thinking, okay, I've done messed up something again. And they set me down, and they told me that they appreciated me. They said that they had been through the stores. They never saw nothing wrong, that I was doing a good job. Then they told me the story about the CEO and the others coming down there, and they felt honored. They were glad. This is something that never happens. And then the guy that turned me down for the promotion last year looked at me. He said, when I brought you in here last year, he said, I explained to you that you wasn't ready, that you needed to grow a little bit more. And he said, you've done that. And he said, he said, we can see it in you. And he said, we see it in your messages that you post on Facebook. We see it in what you're doing now outside of work. And he told me, he said, we're proud of you. We're proud for how you handle yourself, how you bring yourself. And I told him, I said, to be honest with you, I said, it's only because of God that I'm even doing any of this. I said, because if I'd have let my guard down with God, if I'd have got out from behind him whenever I needed him the most, I said, I probably would have walked out the gate. I'd still be walking around trying to figure out what's my purpose in life, what am I supposed to do? And if you do not have God's judgment on you, even whenever you don't understand it and don't want it, don't like it, it will lead you into thinking for yourself, and thinking for yourself is very, very dangerous. It's confusing. And I felt on cloud nine, and once again I was headed down to Bogalusa that morning. This time I had tears of joy coming out my eye. And I believe God did still lead me to do that. I believe God still led me into a spot where I would get rejected and feel bad for myself, because it was another lesson. It was not the time to be promoted. This was the time to feel another sense of rejection. Haven't I been through enough of that in my life? And God says, no, you haven't. You still got to learn. And if I pull you out of that position, I'm either going to put you in something that you're going to fail immediately because you are not prepared for it, and you would not have been there for whenever this moment came up, that you could get some sense of satisfaction and understand why I brought you through it. And it's in that looking back and saying, I see why I was put into prison. I see why I was cast behind the bars. I see why I was restricted to so much in life. And thank God that I got him in my life to lead me through that. I would never have appreciated her as my wife had I always gotten my way, always been able to just date and go out with whoever I wanted to. I never would have appreciated her. I never would have been able for her to put up with me, for me to put up with her. You have to go through low moments in life to be able to handle even more challenges that come later on. It has to happen. And if we could go to when we were first born and God laid out a plan for us and said, choose your destiny, we would pick the one with the least resistance. I want the one that I don't lose any family members growing up. I want the one with a good, steady, good paying job. Something where I could work like Tuesday morning from 7 to 9, $2,000 a week. That would be nice, just something like that. Nothing too much. But you don't get that